Welcome to part 3 of Life Journey and Ministry. Ministry in retirement years of 2008 to the present of 2017. Because of the prior experiences in Germany, I contacted a former student who is now executive secretary of the International Baptist Convention in Frankfurt, Germany. We volunteered to help out IBC churches based in Europe in anticipation of a planned retirement in 2010. In April of 2008, Dr. Martin called me with a request. The IBC church in Cologne, Germany had terminated a pastor after catching him stealing funds from the church. Would we be willing to come over during the summer months in order to help the church get through this very difficult moment? We began praying about this request. Not much time existed before we would have to go, and a world of things would need to be done in advance. In early May, we called back to say that we felt led to say yes, although the funds for such a trip didn't exist, and we had expired passports. I had asked the men's Sunday school class at First Baptist to pray for us about what we were supposed to do in late April. Just after telling Dr. Martin that we would try to arrange to come, the men told us that our travel expenses to Germany were covered. Dr. Martin indicated some scholarship funds to help with expenses while there could be arranged by the convention. The clincher was that our passports were renewed in barely 1 week. So June 15, 2008, we arrived in Frankfurt and caught a train to Cologne. God had worked a true miracle in bringing everything together so quickly. Bonn, some 30 kilometers from Cologne, I knew well, having lived there in 2002-2003. A group of ladies from the church met us at the train station and took us to the home of a Cologne policeman, where we would stay for the summer. The next 8 weeks would reshape the direction of our lives more than any other 8-week period ever in our existence. The church, originally with about 125 members, had dwindled down to barely a dozen people, and virtually all these were African immigrants to Cologne. So Claire and I became pastor to a small Afro-German congregation struggling to stay alive. But God is in the business of making a difference. At the end of July, the church asked us to become their permanent pastor, and God gave the green light. That fall was spent back in North Carolina wrapping up things in preparation for moving to Germany at the end of December. Not only did God prosper the Cologne church with new members from over a dozen countries, but unbelievable funding flowed into the church to move it from 8,000 euros in debt to a 32,000 euro surplus by August 2010. Additionally, a Friday night Bible study group was begun in partnership with the German Baptist Church in Bonn. Through my previous experiences and contacts in Germany, God opened unbelievable doors of ministry opportunity to this small English language church in Cologne. When we finished our 2-year commitment to the church in August 2010, the weekly attendance had grown to upwards of 100 people. In the spring of 2010, the demands for ministry in the Cologne church began overwhelming me due to its rapid growth and expanded ministries. Pastoring an international church is totally unlike pastoring any national church anywhere in the world. The Cologne church now needed a young pastor with a lot more energy and stamina than I had at almost 70 years of age. But where to go for us? The cost of living in affluent Germany was considerably more than in the U.S. We began praying about God's leadership. We love the IBC convention and its ministry worldwide, with some 80 churches in almost 30 countries. In short, God provided another miracle in opening the door for us to continue serving IBM congregations, but this time in Costa Rica. This church is a large congregation with 500 to 600 people in attendance every Sunday morning and a full church staff. We moved to Santa Ana, Costa Rica on September the 1st, 2010, into a nice condo just 2 doors down from the pastor and his family. We were there to help him and the church in any way they needed us. Teaching an adult Bible class of a couple of dozen people quickly was launched. This was followed by personnel committee responsibility. Membership in the church council came next. We helped launch a Wednesday evening program and several other tasks, including membership on the church junta. Claire became the church librarian and church photographer. During this time we were there, the church grew from about 350 to nearly 600 during the 5 years of our time there. It was exciting to watch God at work in all of this. It also became much more involved in the International Baptist Convention, with our pastor serving as convention president in 2016. In the summer of 2013, a group from our church attended the annual summer retreat of the convention held in Interlaken, Switzerland, each July since the early 1960s. The group served as music leaders for the worship services mornings and evenings during the meeting. I had been one of the Bible teachers at Interlaken since 2009, and we continued making these trips each summer back to Interlaken to teach 2 separate seminars each day of the retreat. One of the major vacation centers in all of Europe, Interlaken is in the middle of Switzerland, in the midst of the stunningly beautiful Alps. So many friends from all over the world we made during these summers. We became involved in the local life of Santa Ana as well, and especially Claire. Exercise classes, classes in the Cultural Arts Center, making friends with local residents, and so forth. It was a good time of ministry and witness. Our Spanish language skills progressed, but not as well as did the German earlier. Learning a new foreign language in one's late 60s and 70s is much more difficult than in the teens and 20s. By 2015, it was clear that failing health on my part was necessitating another move, this time into full retirement. When contemplating where to go next, we sensed that a move back to Texas was probably the best choice. But where? A retirement community was the best option. Having known that many of my Wayland professors had moved to the Baptist one in San Angelo, we checked into this option. With the encouragement of Dr. Albert Reyes, the president of Buckner Benevolences, and former student of mine, we made the decision to come to the BRC at San Angelo. It has been a challenging transition. Both Claire and I have been workaholics all of our adult lives. Slowing the pace down has been difficult at times. For me, perhaps more difficult with a rapidly declining health that makes walking and doing much of anything physically almost impossible now. I inherited an extreme sensitivity to all kinds of medicines, and the transitioning from the superior Costa Rican medicines to the American medicines has been especially difficult and debilitating on my health. On Tuesday evening, December 8, 2015, we arrived in San Angelo from Costa Rica to begin this new phase of our lives. Robert Morales made that transition into retirement much easier with his help and encouragement here at the BRC. One of my ongoing prayers has been able to continue doing ministry of some kind as long as I'm alive. A couple of decades ago, I began doing basic planning for retirement ministry. One part was to serve the Lord in ministry outside the U.S. and especially in Europe. Another part was a continued writing ministry. By the time of my retirement from my professorship in 2008, I'd published almost 24 books and journals, articles in both English and German. Numerous former students encouraged me to put into writing the things they had learned in the classroom with me. The website Cranfordville had been born in 1999 as a ministry to my Gardner-Webb students to enhance the classroom presentations with supplementary materials online. As time progressed, I noticed unexpectedly that the outreach of cranfordville.com was expanding beyond my university students. This has mushroomed in retirement with the posting of Bible studies and so forth. As of about 3 years ago, the outreach of Cranfordville had touched some 230,000 individuals worldwide, as I accidentally discovered in doing some web searching. For the past few years, about 600 to 700 individuals a month have come into the website to check for materials. The Bible Commentary Series, Biblical Insights Commentary, was born before leaving North Carolina, and thus far about 5,000 to 8,000 pages of commentary materials have been produced on the New Testament. Now, since I am barely able to leave our apartment, the majority of every day is spent working at the computer doing writing from the almost 48,000 volume digital library I've accumulated. I produce the graphic files also. If the Lord allows, I hope to finish a 12,000 to 15,000 page commentary on the New Testament by the time of my passing. What have I discovered over these past 75 plus years? One thing is certain. Following God's leadership takes you into many unexpected places. Growing up in rural West Texas, I never even fantasized traveling to these places. In fact, I hardly knew that most of them even existed. The idea of delivering guest lectures to doctoral students in several of the leading German universities was certainly not contemplated. Gaining skills to read and interpret ancient texts in almost a dozen ancient languages, including publishing a grammar on ancient Koine Greek, was not in my mind either. Becoming a professor at one of the largest theological seminaries in the world was not another contemplated possibility. Nor being asked to even teach classical Greek in the University of Texas system, nor being asked to be a guest professor in the sociology faculty at a large German university. At the beginning of gospel ministry in high school during the late 1950s, my anticipation was to pastor small to moderate-sized Baptist churches in West Texas for the rest of my life. When a life is turned over to the Lord with no strings attached, the future becomes an exciting adventure with God. That clearly has been my personal experience. And amazingly, ministry continues even in these closing years of the journey across earthly time. For that I am profoundly grateful to God. From my early youth, the scripture in Proverbs 3:5 through 7 has been especially meaningful. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. and do not rely on your own insight. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. God has proven himself faithful always to lead and guide in ministry in all kinds of places and situations. On my gravestone will be inscribed the axiom that is found on the Scottish Presbyterian reformer John Knox's tombstone. Here lies a man who so feared God that he. Hopefully, you have understood how God works in a little better way as you've shared together with me the story of ministry in my life over the past almost 60 years or so. I pray that you may realize that if you turn loose of your life and let God have full control, he can do some marvelous things in ministry and service to the cause of the gospel. God bless you as you seek to serve him and to honor him in your life.